Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Chill Film Discussion. Sorry we're late. That's my fault. Um, I just finished watching this movie, so hey, that's why we're reviewing it, discussing it a bit later. But yes, so today, Austin and I reviewed and discussed a film known as The Post. It's a 2017 American historical political thriller film about the Washington Post and its publication of the Pentagon Papers. Not to be confused with the Watergate scandal, as I previously mentioned. They are two independent situations. But yeah, it's directed and produced by Steven Spielberg. And as a fun trivia fact, it was Spielberg had the film released as quickly as possible to sort of connect it with the political climate at the time, or fake news climate in the U.S. at the time, because this was released in 2017, and he got it basically done within 9 months. Like from filming, from script to final cut, 9 months, all within 2017, which is just astounding. Yeah, so I mean, it stars Meryl Streep as Katharine Graham, who is the publisher of the Washington Post, and Tom Hanks as Ben Bradley, who is the executive editor. Yeah, so I think in terms of first impressions, or not, sorry, in terms of concluding remarks for this film, yeah, like I think this film was, like the acting for this film was really well done, especially with the main cast, Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. I think both of them did great job acting. I think that the for a drama film, there was definitely like the plot definitely had a lot of drama, especially toward the climax, into the climax. I think that the journey there, the progression, the pacing of the plot fit the tone and the theme of this film very well. I think the writing, the dialogue was also very good, because because this movie was predominantly dialogue. In fact, a lot of the relationships that we had to sort of figure out, like the characters that we had to sort of learn about, came through their dialogue. And although the first 15-20 minutes of this film was a bit confusing, at least for me, to sort of understand who these characters were, what the context was, because we kind of thrown like right into the middle of the action almost, or like what is happening as the audience. Like after those 20 minutes of fast-paced introduction, like the movie sets off pretty smoothly, and it's fairly straightforward in terms of like what is happening. I think so overall, like the writing and the dialogue was good, because like that's how this movie was predominantly set up to be, so the only, I think, grief I have with this film, and it could be more of a minor one, is at the end. So the end of the film has, after the climax, when Katharine Graham, who's played by Meryl Streep, makes her first decision to publish, there's a little bit of a obstacle about how she could be sent to prison, essentially, because of
being
the
contempt of court.
Yes. And ultimately that gets brought back to her, and then she has to basically stamp her second approval and be like, oh yeah, it's okay, like let's do it. I thought they didn't need to go that direction. I think they could have just had all that information set in the first decision, such that it's like, that's the final one. Like there doesn't need to be, we don't need to backtrack. Because the reason with that the potential backtracking is that, like, one is having a second decision made doesn't add anything, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't add any like drama or impact the finality or anything like that. It's just like assess or not it's reconfirming the first decision. So, and if the the second decision was different, like let's say she was like, oh no, she got cold feet, and then was like, I don't want to publish anymore, then it would have, I feel like in my opinion, it would have hurt her character a lot, and it would have left a sour spot in the film, especially at the end, because you know, like she sort of made it clear that like she knew what was going to happen based on the first decision, and so like it backtracking it just doesn't seem like it just reduces, it just doesn't add strength, and in fact like hinders like how strong her character is made out to be at the end. So anyway, I guess the point I'm making is that the second decision could only harm the film if it was different from the first.
Right.
Which I think they could have just added it. They could have just all made it clear in the first decision. So anyway, that's the only gripe I have with this film. I didn't. The small things. There was a lot of subtle humor in this film. There's some conversations where there was like there was a main conversation happening and there's like a background conversation happening, and the background conversation was kind of funny if you're paying attention to that. And then there was of course the scene with the whole Tom Hanks' character, Brandon Bradley's daughter, was making a lot of money through lemonade sales at home, when all the editors were trying to come up with the story. Anyway, I thought that was very amusing. But otherwise, yeah, this film was very, I think, very well written, very well acted. The story was, told in a very like cohesive way.
Yeah.
It is based on history, so it's not original, but still the journey was well. Yeah, dramatized version. I think there was enough. I think the drama was definitely there. Stakes were definitely there. I was invested emotionally, and there was no romance in this film, so that was very good. There's no romance to distract it from the film. That's a very big check mark on my book. No unnecessary romance. But yeah, well done film.
Yeah. I probably agree with you, Patrick. I think this is a good film, to that they've executed here. A good film to watch. As you said, good. It's mainly dialogue, and the dialogue is good to follow along. Right, it's engaging. We get to see all the sides. Try to speak and go about the situation at hand. On one hand, the conflict we see. It goes into two perspectives, right? Catherine and Ben's perspective, right? As we said, and Catherine's, her conflict is, she's trying to, save her business or, have it propped up, right? And then also her close relationships with her friends, also in high society, versus, what's journalistic integrity and, what's right for the American people to know, and, keeping, the media, keeping government in check, right? So she has all these things flying around her. Sometimes I feel like maybe the, decisions that she's making is not, at least her, not as affecting as much, because she does seem to be in a position of high standing. But again, we do see the weight that it has on her in the dialogue that she has. She is conflicted, right? That is expressed well to us as the audience. And then the other perspective, Ben's perspective, is always fast paced, and that's more exciting and more interesting. This is why I think it's a good idea to have both perspectives of Catherine having the more the emotional tone, has the thematic themes being affected, and then have Ben's side, which is more exciting. Right, he's in the newsroom trying to put together a story. He's trying to push the story to go out, and there's always conflict of whether or not they should push it because of being what's the legality of it, right? Because the Nixon administration is very vindictive, right? And it is going after the newsroom, right? So it's very exciting to see how they go about it. I mean, even then, it's exciting because like maybe it's just the editing and the dialogue that's happening, right? But really, it's just them like trying to gather their sources, right? Gather the information and then pushing against back the lawyers, right? That's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it engaging. The writing. So I think the writing was really good. How it was able to keep us engaged on a topic that seems so banal, right? Oh yeah, they're just trying to publish a story. Granted, the story is about publishing the Pentagon Papers, but even then, seeing what these Pentagon Papers are, it's just like, what's the weight? How would that affect them? I mean, yeah, they're hiding the news of how this, the Vietnam War effort is going. Maybe for me, I think it would also have been nicer to see the effect. I mean, we all know the Vietnam War wasn't great, right? A lot of, thousands of American troops died, right? But here it seems so far removed, except for in the beginning where you kind of see the weight. But in here, it's all about the newsroom, right? So maybe it would have been kind of maybe a little better to see more of that weight. But at the same time, we get a lot already from the dialogue. The movie is pretty streamlined already. Going for that, and I kind of agree with your assessment of the climax, right? It's almost like we have a double climax, right? I do think it was there is your viewpoint of having it all in one, but I think it would be okay to have two if we had more weight on how, I mean, prison is bad, right? But just to have how it affected each of the the people involved, Catherine and Ben, right? Because I don't feel like we got that weight. We have some slow moments and contemplative moments, right? They say it like, oh yeah, we're going to prison, but I don't know how it really affect these people, these characters. If I mean, obviously no one wants to go, right? But they're again someone of elite status. How would it really affect them, right? What's their personal relationships? Who are they telling, right? Will Catherine actually go back on the decision? Because she seemed like pretty much like, yeah, I'm probably going to go forward, or she kept her decision secret, right? But if there's any kind of chance that she might go back on it, that would have, I think, held more stakes, maybe make it more triumphant when she said, actually, we're going to go for it. We don't care about the decisions, right? Be a little more forceful. But yeah, the second decision, the second climax, right? It just felt not as heavy as the first one, the first time it came around. Especially as the first time there was like, all the people were on the phone. It was very interesting. Everyone trying, shooting back and forth. So, not as exciting and weighty. But again, that's probably just the execution of how, this movie goes. Other than that, I think the actings was, pretty exciting, pretty engaging, right? To Meryl Streep, Tom Hanks did a very, very good job, in their roles. And then, I think, there's some parts maybe that could be cut. This movie is 2 hours long, but sometimes there seems a little bit slow and a little bit dragged out, or even repetitive, right? And granted, yes, we want ups and downs, but sometimes, I think we want variety within that, because sometimes the same slow moments we're just saying, oh yeah, my business, right? Like, oh yeah, what am I going to lose, right? And just interacting with different characters on that front. Mainly with Catherine, it's more focused about her family at that point. A lot of the slow moments, and that starts to tug at the heartstrings, like family and whatnot. But I think there could have been other points, the employees, the company, your legacy, or just interacting with different people. I mean, she does, but it just maybe comes off a bit weird at times, and that's why I don't really put too much weight into it. But overall, I don't think that really hurts the film. This film is still very engaging, and I did enjoy watching it as it went on.
Yeah, nice. So all right, so in terms of final ratings, I think I would give this film. I'd probably give this film an 8. Yeah, I think I would definitely recommend it. There were it kind of, because of what I mentioned in terms of the ending of this like double climax, I think that kind of prevents it from being in like top tier 9-10 range. Since I think it was like a pretty glaring issue. But otherwise, it's a very good film. And yeah, it tells a good story. So.
Got it. Yeah, for me, I'd also give it an 8. I think it's good writing, engaging story, but there were just some points where I think it could have been better executed in terms of how the characters were presented to us and decisions they made. And I think, as you said, the climax of how we got there, right? I think maybe could have been done just a little bit better, but by all means, still a very, very good movie, and a movie that I would definitely recommend.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's it for today's stream. We'll be back next week.
Maybe. I'm not too sure, actually.
All right. Well, we'll schedule accordingly. And if it's not next week, then 2 weeks. When 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now.
Yeah. Two. We'll see.
Yeah.
Keep you surprised.
Okay. All right. I'd love to hear it. Cool. Well, that's it for today, folks. Have a good day.
See you later. Bye.